I am here with Louis DuPont de Locke himself, Jacob Anderson. Henny.
Hello, Naomi. I don't know what that wasn't even really Louis' voice. You know, sometimes you open your mouth and it doesn't come out how you thought it was going to come out.
Always, absolutely. Very relatable. First of all, let's talk about this, okay, honey? Can we talk about how you stay in the prestige world? We need to talk to your agent. You are coming through, honey. You said Broadchurch. You said Game of Thrones. You said Interview with a Vampire. This is what I call all bangers, no mash, okay?
It's not all bangers, honestly. just take a cursory glance at my IMDb. They're not all bangers. I've been very lucky, though. I have been very lucky, the things that I've been involved in. But it's not, I wouldn't say it's all bangers, no mash. And look, we like a bit of mash, right? Like, mash is good. Some carbohydrates.
Well, that's true. A little carb to line the stomach. But, like, this, especially, Louis, like, you're doing it all. You're serving us dialects, okay? You're serving us languages. You're serving us time periods, hunty.
Look, what can I say? I'm a very lucky man. This is definitely, though, I would say, like, of everything I've ever done, I've never in my professional life felt this comfortable in what I was wearing. Like wearing like a beautiful suit every day.
Really?
And it fits me and I can move in it. And I can, it was pretty amazing, the things that I got to do. There was never a normal day on the set of Interview with the Vampire.
Well, really, it is a stunning show. I love a show where I get to get lost in a world. I say, take me away. Like, now on Earth is too much. And so,
yeah.
But before we get into our hard-hitting questions, because I am a journalist, if nothing else, if you were an actual vampire, would you eat people?
Needs must. I guess I probably would. I think I'd rather eat people than rats. See, this is the thing. This is what we get into in the show. Is I was just about to say, but I'd eat bad people. But then what does that mean?
Right.
That's such a complicated thing. Maybe I'd only eat people that were just about to die.
Okay.
Like minutes away from dying.
Okay. But I don't know if that's going to be that good blood. That minutes away from dying blood, it's not going to have the flavor. That's what I think.
It's not sweet blood.
No.
But it's like vaguely ethical blood. Maybe.
Vaguely ethical blood. Okay, season 2. That's what we're going to unpack. We're going to get into vaguely ethical blood. Okay, now here's the thing, though. This is now another show that has its associated fandom. And this is a show that has people who have their expectations and their needs. And, it's so much bigger than the character you're playing, right? Like, it has a life of its own to some extent.
Yeah.
How do you approach something like that? Do you shut it all out and just kind of stay on the page with your script? Do you devour everything else to make sure you're doing it differently? What's that process?
I feel very, very connected to Louis on lots of different levels. I feel very understood by him and I feel like I understand him. Mm-hmm. I think the biggest thing to hang on to when you're playing a character that's adapted from any, source material is like, what does that character mean to you? How do you connect to that character? That's the thing to keep with you, because you're never going to make everyone happy.
Right.
Like, everybody's not going to be satisfied with choices you make. But I really love Louis, so I decided to continue with love, and hopefully that's enough, love and admiration.
Yes. I mean, I think that it's obvious in the portrayal of this character who is so complicated, and he has so much, it's he has enough going on before he becomes a vampire. Okay? It felt like Louis, I said, honey, you got a full plate.
Yeah.
Are you sure you want to add vampire to the mix?
I know, it's like kind of the funniest thing about Louis' whole existence, but also it's like the central theme for him is like, he thought that he was going to have a way out of his identity crisis. And the grass is always greener, because when he becomes a vampire, he's just handed a bigger identity crisis. Bless him.
Yeah. As we're saying, Lestat and Louis have this complicated relationship. It's an existential and ethical questioning going on in episode 3 between who should we eat and how, and then also monogamy, loyalty, Jonah, Antoinette. It's like, what is this relationship? What are we committing to? What are we saying we are? So let's listen to a clip that shooketh.
What can I say? I'm a lot. I'm not perfect.
I knew you were there.
Yes.
You jealous?
Yes. I don't like sharing.
What about Antoinette?
It's different. I don't have feelings for her.
He did me some face and I drove him home. I heard your heart stamping! You watched the whole thing like some creeper.
And then I watched you pull over and drain a dog and run down an alleyway for 2 more rats. This is not a life.
That's because you took my life. I got nothing. I lost everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. To me, that moment is the crux of the episode, and it's the crux of their relationship, right? Like, to me, that clip tells you so much about who these two people are and how they view relationships.
Yeah. I think there's like a thing between them about boundaries, right? Like, Lestat's, like, he was being a creeper. He went and followed Louis. He felt like he could do that, and he's being possessive. This scene really illustrates a larger thing in this episode of their differences are widening. They're getting further and further apart from each other and sort of realizing that this is probably not going to work.
Because I thought it was going to take Louis more time to admit that. Do you believe Louis loves Lestat?
Yes. I think that if Louis didn't love Lestat on some level, then he would have already left that situation. He gets to that point in this episode, and I think he's a man on fire. He's just it's going down for him. Everything is falling apart. But he also, when he says, you took my life, the reason that all of this is happening is because you took my life is not true. He's blaming Lestat. It maybe wouldn't be fair for him to put all the blame on Lestat, but he just doesn't know where to put it, I think. And he's got a lot of hubris, Louis. He's just he's a snob. He comes from a life where he's always kind of had what he wanted. He's been given everything, and then was in a situation where he had to earn everything. But I think he still is looking for places to blame mistakes that he's made and things that he hasn't quite thought of, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Louis' reckoning. He's reckoning in 1910. He's reckoning in the present. Certainly a weariness with an added H.
Yeah, there's definitely a weariness. I'm quite an anxious person, and Louis is quite an anxious person. It's a bit of an understatement.
Oh, yes, Louis is very, very anxious. And Lestat is cool and collected, which feels like a very relatable relationship issue to me. How much did you talk with Sam Reed, who plays Lestat, about this relationship dynamic?
I think this probably annoyed Sam quite a lot, but I always used to think about the sort of bickering between the two of them as okay, so what is this in a real world setting? What is the most domestic version of this disagreement that they're having?
Yeah.
When we talked about stuff before we shot, occasionally Sam would be like, yeah, but we're vampires. And I'd be like, yeah, but you didn't take the bins out, did you? And that's annoying. I think that it was a scene where we're disposing of bodies, and I was like, it's bins. I've walked you to the bin to explain to you how to throw away a trash can, Oh yeah, trash, not bin.
No, yeah. I know. I'm bilingual. I know. Talking about Sam and sort of the way, how much time did y'all get before you started actually shooting? It's okay, we're in love now, but it's going to be very tortured and complicated. Rolling.
Yeah. I don't know if I completely believe in luck, but I think there's a weird cosmic luck in this whole thing. It is a huge roll of the dice. Mm-hmm. The first day we met each other, obviously we both had our masks on, and it was we had a hug, and we were like, all right. And then we just spent the next day just walking around New Orleans and getting to know each other. And I truly love that man so much. Like we connected so quickly and just found like, and I think part of that as well is that there's a level of trust that that we had to have.
Right.
Otherwise we weren't going to be able to do this. Like at those hours and those scenes and the intimacy of their relationship, and also like the toxicity and the fire in it, like we had to really like hold each other and be like, all right, have we got each other's back? And we did. We're just like, we're in this together. Let's listen to each other and try and have fun. And we did. We had a lot of fun. I thought that taking this role would be quite triggering for me in lots of different ways. I thought it was going to force me to like have to reconcile with lots of feelings I had. I thought it was going to be like just a guilt and shame and despair fest for 6 months. And actually I just found it like really, really cathartic being Louis. And Louis helped me a lot. I think there's something about acceptance in Louis and acceptance of self and like, this is who I am, this is who I've been, and I'm enduring and I'm choosing to keep going. I'm choosing to accept who I am. And that was really helpful for me. So I rather than sort of feeling tortured, I think I ended up just feeling very held and very like comforted by the whole thing in a weird sort of way.
Storyville is the sinking ship. And naturally, you are the first to drown. But that's your problem, Louis. Always has been. You're arrogant. You haven't accepted your place in this world. And your pale lover with his seemingly endless supply of capital. And the weird goings-on in your sodomite townhouse won't change the fact that you're a tiny man flying too close to the sun. And that's what I am, Louis. The sun. Walk away.
Why's your heart beating so fast?
You said I'm arrogant? Maybe I am arrogant. What are you?
I'm a vampire.
Ooh, Fenwick got his. I will say, did not mind it. I was like very excited. At the same time, Louis is out here just, draining rats and draining dogs. And so it was such a big leap to go from that to like, not just am I going to finally eat a person, I'm going to eat a public person and then string him up by the entrails in front of everybody.
Yeah, there are a few things in this episode. I think there's a racial component to it as well, where Louis' business is falling apart, and it's because of gentrification, racism, and he's feeling more and more helpless. And Lestat keeps telling him to be more and more free and to like give in to who you are and be the vampire I know you are and all this kind of stuff. And Louis like, but me being a vampire doesn't buy me out of the way other people perceive me. It doesn't buy me out of this real shit in the world. I can't just be like you. I can't be this sort of mischievous baby running around having fun, eating people here and there and doing whatever I like. Like I'm still going to be a black man as soon as I walk out of this house. And I think that that's like a huge part of their rift as well. Lestat just not understanding that.
Right.
But this is very much a personal vendetta. This isn't an emotional kill, but he just does it in this very like detached way that he hasn't really been able to connect to before. He has a reason now. He has a purpose for killing. It's not just like trying to make Lestat happy or not just trying to, do what he thinks he should be doing. But the repercussions of that are arguably disastrous for human beings. And there's a human toll that it takes.
Mm-hmm. I didn't get the sense, though, despite the fact that this is a personal kill, I wasn't sure if Louis felt the actual catharsis from it. Did you feel like Louis was meant to be satisfied and by killing Fenwick the way he did?
No, I don't think he finds any. I don't think he gets satisfaction from it. And I think that kicks off, I think, this like emptiness about his place in humanity. There's a version of this scene where it's like, it's him trying out what he sort of proposes at the beginning. Like, why don't we spare like the good humans and only feed from those that are like an illness on the world? But it still doesn't give him the satisfaction that he needs. I'm not entirely sure that Louis is ever going to be satisfied. For all of Anne Rice's vampires, it's about endurance, isn't it? It's about, can you live with what you are and who you are and what you do? Can you live with that and still go on another day or night?
Do you think, does Louis regret becoming a vampire?
Yeah, I think so. But then he wouldn't want to be I don't think he'd want to be human again either.
Okay.
He's very complicated.
Yeah. Well, end of episode 1, when you go to the church and start to confess, and it really feels to me, I was like, if Lestat hadn't come in, Louis was going to kill himself that night.
Yeah.
Right? Like, Louis was getting it off his chest. He was going to get right with God, and then he was going to go do something.
Yeah, that's how I see it. I think the fact that he is never going to find satisfaction is what throws him into despair every day. Louis feels that there's just something broken in him. You know, if episode 2 is Louis being like, I don't think that I'm ever going to be like a true vampire, I feel like this episode is Louis being like, well, I'm never going to truly be human again. And he has to kind of come to terms with that. Well, am I going to be a human or am I going to be a vampire?
Right.
And he's both in lots of ways. It's complicated. It changes all the time, I think. And it always did for me. The answer always changed. And I think that's kind of, again, it's a very human thing. Your answers do change every day.
Yeah. The goalposts move.
Yeah.
And I think with somebody like Louis, the world has to literally go up in flames for him to let it go. You're a vampire. You have all the power in the world. And Louis is like, I would like to buy the Azalea. It's like, Louis, honey, think bigger. Think bigger. Stop trying to be a businessman. But that is holding on to human notions of power and what you think will make you feel good, right? Like that is his big swing. And it's like, no, like you got to let all this go. Louis got to let go of all the human stuff. But that then brings me to Claudia.
I ran from the quarter that night. Ran to where the violence spread most wild. I stumbled through the streets like an irrational child who had tested his strength on a small bird and now asked, can I make it whole again? One of those inconceivable moments where who you were before and who you will be forever after is marked in time. I could not save the Azalea. I could not save Storyville. I could not save the aunt on the wrong side of the wall, but I could save her. My light, my Claudia, my redemption.
You know, we're talking about him being detached and coming off of embracing his vampire nature, choosing to take a child. It's sort of like, obviously the opposite of detachment, the opposite of letting go.
Yeah. Yeah, but I think, like you said, he's not thinking big. I think that on some level, Claudia is a way for him to absolve himself of guilt. Okay, if I can save this one human, then I can kind of save them all, at least in my eyes. I can forgive myself for what I've done, for what I've wrought on this community, if I just save her. And also the way my mother and my sister just looked at me makes me think that I have just lost them. I have lost my sister, who is possibly the only person that like I feel truly understands me aside from Lestat, and that's not working out at the moment. Like, I think she's a band-aid for somebody that is going to live for eternity. He thinks very short term and it creates problems. It creates a lot of problems for him and for everybody else that he drags into it.
Right. Oh my God, this has been very cathartic for me personally. I just have one last question for you before I let you go. I wanted to end with this segment that we call A Little Taste, all right? Because vampires are all about that temptation. Without giving away spoilers, can you give us a taste of what's to come in future episodes? A hint, a little something that we should be looking out for?
I was going to say despair, but like, that's Louis's whole deal, right? That's not something new that you see. More despair.
Cool.
Yeah.
Jacob, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me and answer my questions. You are the best.
Thank you, Naomi. Thank you for indulging in my waffling. That was fun.